There, today we're going to be looking at the control flow lab, and let's get started. Okay, so the first page. For each of the logical expressions below, print out what you think the result value will be, true or false. Then print out the actual expression to see if you are right. An example has been provided below. So, is 43 equal to 53? So we think it's false, and then you go ahead and print out 43 equals to 53, and the result should be given to you, and it should obviously say it is false because 43 does not equal 53. So let's go ahead. We think, well, at least I think this will be true, and if I go ahead and print 9 equals 9, that should give us the true result. True. Great. So let's have a look here. 9 is not equal to 9. So it's saying 9 is not equal to 9. So obviously this is false because 9 is equal to 9. So print false. And if we go ahead and try the actual expression, 9 not equal to 9, that should give us a false as well. Let's have a look here. Yes, false, false. And again, false here. So we scroll down here, and the next one, 47 is greater than 90. Well, I think that's false. And if we go ahead and actually do the expression, 47 is greater than 90, we should get a false um, answer as well. Great, 47 is less than 90. Well, I think that's true. And I'm going to go ahead and print true, and I'm going to go ahead and actually do the expression now. 47 is less than 90, and that's also true as well. Give it a sec, it's loading. True, true. Fantastic. Okay, so let's have a look here. Let's do the next one. 4 is less than or equal to. 4 is less than or equal to. Well, obviously, I think this is true because 4 is equal to it. And let's go ahead, 4 is equal to 4. If we go ahead and check this, 4 is less than or equal to 4, and we check, we should get a true as well. Of course, I made a typo here. There we go. And if we look at this, it's true. That's fantastic. And lastly, 4 is greater than or equal to 5. I think that's false. And if we go ahead and print the actual statement, 4 is greater than or equal to 5. That should give us a false answer. Let's have a look. Let it load. False. Great. It's got a few more here. This is where it kind of gets a bit more convoluted. 47 is greater than 90, and 47 is less than 90. Well, 47 greater than 90 is obviously false. 47 less than 90 is obviously true. A false and a true gives us a false. So I think the result here is false. If I go ahead and print the whole thing, let's see if I could copy and paste this just to make it easier on my life. If I go ahead and do this, it should give me a false. Give it a second. And there's an error here. Of course, I need to have parentheses for the print function. There we go. This should execute now. Give it a second. And it is false. Great. Moving on to number 8. Let's think about this. 47 is greater than 90. Well, that's false. This implies or. So 47 greater than 90 is false. Or 47 is less than 90. Well, we know that is true. So false or true. False or true obviously gives us a true. And so I think this will result in a true statement. But let's have a look. if we're right or not. So I'm going to copy this expression and let's see what it executes at. It executes as true, so that's fantastic. And finally, number 9, not true. Well, what is not true? Not true is obviously false. So, whoops. So obviously I think this will be a false statement. And if I go ahead and print not true, we should get false. Great. So that was the first page. Great. Okay, so let's go ahead and do page number 2. Okay, so let's have a look here. Imagine you're creating a machine that will count your money for you and tell you how wealthy you are based on how much money you have. A variable dollar has been given to you with a value of 0. Write an if statement that prints, sorry kids, you're broke, if dollars has a value of 0. Observe what is printed to the console. Okay, so how do we do this? So we create an if statement that essentially says, sorry kid, you're broke, if um, if the dollar variable is equal to 0. So we start with the if keyword because that's how you start an if statement, and we say if dollars equals 0, right? We open curly braces, and notice that the curly braces, the closed curly braces is already written for us. Swift auto completes that. And here we're gonna say, listen, print sorry kid, you're broke, if dollars equals 0. And that's essentially the if statement. Observe what is printed to the console. The console obviously prints sorry kid, you're broke right here, sorry kid, you're broke. So yeah, that was pretty easy. Now, dollars has been updated below to have a value of 10. Great. Write an if-else statement that prints sorry kid, you're broke if dollars has a value of 0, but print you've got some spending money otherwise. Observe what is printed to the console. Okay, so essentially we're reusing this. But we're adding a if-else statement. So how do we do that? So the first part is identical. However, now we just add an else statement using the else keyword and opening the parentheses. And then we're printing, what was it? We're printing you've got some spending money. Great. Of course, you gotta put quotations in. You gotta put some quotations in a string. And of course, because dollars equals 10, it prints out you've got some spending money. Fantastic. Okay, dollars has been updated below to have a value of 105. Write an if-else if statement that prints sorry kid, you're broke if dollars has a value of 0. Print you've got some spending money if dollars is less than 100, and print looks to me like you're rich otherwise. Observe what is printed in the console. So essentially we're sort of reusing this, but we're modifying it a bit. So we've got the thing that says sorry kid, you're broke if it's 0, but of course I have to change this to else if, and obviously I have to actually write a logical expression here saying that if dollars is less than, and this is the less than operator, less than 100, then print you've got some spending money. Otherwise, so else, print, what is it? Let's have a look. Looks to me like you're rich. Great. And of course it says looks to me like you're rich. Now of course if I update this to 95, it should print the second line. You've got no spending money. If I give it a value of 0, it should say, sorry kid, you're broke, but obviously if you go back and give it the 105 value, it'll go back to 105. Fantastic. Okay, moving on to the third page. You want your fitness tracking app to give you as much encouragement as possible to your users. Create a variable steps equal to the number of steps you guess you've taken today. Create a constant called step goals equal to 10,000. Write an if statement that will print you're almost halfway there. If steps is less than half of step goals, you will print you're over halfway there. If steps is greater than half of if steps is greater than half of step goal. Okay, so that was a mouthful. Obviously. Okay, so let's see what we're gonna do here. The first thing we have to do here is actually create the variable called steps, and we're gonna give it a value of let's say, I don't know, 4900. Why? Because it says create a variable called steps equal to the number of steps you've taken today. So let's go with 4900. Okay, and then it says create a constant called step goal. So let step goal equal to be 10,000. Okay, so that's 10,000. And then write an if-else statement that will print you're almost halfway there. If steps is less than half the step goals, and will print you're over halfway there if steps is over. So obviously we're less, 4900 is less. So how do you write this if statement? So if steps is the less than, right? If steps is less than step goal, right? Divided by 2 because because half is half, so we're going to divide this by 2. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say you're almost halfway there. You're almost halfway there. Else, we're going to say else print you're more than halfway there. And this should print that we're less than halfway there. There seems to be an error here. Let's see what the error is. So var steps 4900. The error is consecutive statements online must be separated with a. Well, there are no consecutive statements on a line. Sorry, the problem is I didn't put this here, so it messed up. There we go. That clears that up, and it says you're almost halfway there. Perfect. Okay, now let's look at now create a new but similar if else if statement that prints way to get a good start today. If steps is less than a tenth of step goals, print you're almost halfway there if steps is less than half of step goal, and print you're over halfway there if steps is greater than half of step goal. So how do we do this? Real quick, you start with the if statement and we say, listen, if steps is less than steps step goal divided by 10, that's the 10th, then print out the following, which is print way to get a good start. Great. And then we're going to put an else if steps, there we go, is less than step goal divided by 2. We're going to say you're almost there. You're almost halfway there, actually. And then we're going to say else print you're over halfway there. Pretty easy stuff. So we've modified this if statement to say, listen, if step goal is actually um, if steps is less than 1/10 of step goal, then say way to get a good start. If it's just under half, so it's between 1/10 and 1/2, say you're almost halfway there. And if it's more than halfway, which is every other option, say you're over halfway there. Fantastic. Okay, let's look at the third page. Great, let's do the third page here. Boolean practice. Okay, let's have a look. Imagine you're going to dinner with friends and are struggling to decide where to go. Two of you have very strong opinions and have clearly laid out your requirements for dinner as follows. You want to eat somewhere that has either fish or pizza. Your friend wants to eat somewhere with vegan options. Another friend brings up a restaurant she thinks will fit both your criteria. This restaurant's attributes are represented by a few constants below. Write an if-else statement that will print "Let's go" if the restaurant's attributes match the group's dietary requirements, and otherwise will print "Sorry, we'll have to think of somewhere else." Okay, so this is pretty easy to do. Let's get started. First, I'm going to start with the if statement, and I'm going to open parentheses here. I'm going to say has fish, or, and the way you write or is using these two vertical lines, has pizza, close parentheses, and the and operator is represented by two ampersands and has vegan. And then we open our curly brace and we say print "Let's go." Otherwise, so we use the keyword else, we're gonna say print print "Sorry, we'll have to think of somewhere else." Fantastic. So here what we're saying is, check this out. If one of these two variables match out, so if has fish is true or if has pizza is true, not both of them have to be true, but only one of them has to be true. If that's the case and has vegan is true, then let's go. Otherwise, print "Sorry, we'll have to think of somewhere else." Obviously, has fish is true and has vegan is true, therefore the console printed out "Let's go." Moving on to the next example on this page, imagine you're trying to decide whether or not to go for a walk. You decide that you'll go on a walk if it's not raining, or if it's 82 degrees or warmer and sunny out. Create a constant "is nice weather" that is equal to an expression that evaluates to a boolean indicating whether or not the weather is nice enough for you to go for a walk. Write an if statement that will print "I'm going for a walk." Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is do the following. Okay, so let's do this. If is raining, so now check this out. I put this little thing before "is raining" to kind of negate "is raining", so it's the opposite of "is raining". So if it's not raining, essentially is what I'm saying, or temp is greater than or equal to 82 degrees and it is sunny, then we're gonna print "I'm going for a walk." And that's essentially it. Cool. Alright, let's move on to the next page. Okay, let's do the fifth page here. So you decide you want your fitness tracker to have a feature that helps users stay inside specified heart rate zones while they are working out. You'll display a message to the user telling them to go a little faster to increase their heart rate if they are below the target rate. Tell them that they are spot on if they are in the target, and tell them to slow down a little if they are over target. So it says here create a constant is in target, is below target, and is above target. I don't think you actually need that. So I'm just going to move on to the actual instructions where it says then write an if statement that will print you're right on track if the user is inside the target zone. You're doing great, but try to push it a bit if the user is below the target zone, and you're on fire, slow it down a bit if the user is above target. So this is really easy. So we've got three constants here. Target lower bound is 120, target upper bound is 150, and the current heart rate, let's say it's at 147. That's what they gave us. So it's really easy. Just create an if statement here and say, listen, if current heart rate is less than 120, then simply print out the following. And we're going to say, you're doing great, but try to push it a bit. Else if, right? So else if, else if current heart rate is greater than or equal to 120, and this is important, and the current heart rate is less than or equal to 150, then tell it print the following, which is going to be you're right on track. And finally, I'm going to go else. Finally, else print you're on fire, slow it down a bit. Okay, so this is essentially the if statement that we have here, and what we're saying here is if the current heart rate is less than 120, then say, listen, you're doing great, but try to push it a bit. However, if the current heart rate is greater than 120 but is less than 150, so it's greater than the lower bound but less than the upper bound, say, listen, perfect, you're on track. Everything else, which really falls everything over 150, because we've already covered everything under 120 and everything between 120 and 150. So everything else is over 150. Say, listen, you're on fire, slow it down a bit. And that's pretty much it. Okay, let's do page 6. Okay, let's look at page 6 here. And in page 6 it says, imagine you're on a baseball team nearing the end of the season. Create a league position constant with a value of 1 using a switch statement. Print champions if the league position is 1, runner up if the value is 2, and third place if the value is 3, and bad season in all other cases. So that's pretty easy. We're going to create this constant called league position, and we're going to initialize it at a value of 1. And we're going to create a switch statement, statement using the switch keyword. And we're going to say league position, and we're going to open the curly braces, and we're going to say case 1, and we're going to print out champions. And in case 2, we're gonna say well, let me just do this here. We're gonna say runner up, and in case 3 we're gonna say third place, and in case 4 we're gonna say bad season, and of course we have to close this with the curly brace. All right, so that's that. And moving on here, write a new switch statement that prints medal winner if league position is within the range of 1 to 3. Otherwise, print no medal. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, so that's pretty easy. We say switch league position again, and we'll open the curly braces. We're going to say case 1 to 3, and we do the 2 using 3 dots. We're going to say case 1 to 3, we're gonna print we've medaled or medal winner. Okay, and default is, by the way, I forgot the default in the first one. I just realized that. Default, which essentially says everything else. So think of default as the else in if statements. So default, no medal awarded. Okay, so obviously I forgot the default here, and of course it gave me an error. I wasn't even paying attention. Up top, default, print bad season. It was in case 4. Should have been default, so that's fine. Let's do this. Cut, paste, and that covers it. Okay, all errors should go away in a second. And no, oh, there we go. Yeah, they went away. Perfect. Let's move on to the 7th page. Okay, so let's do the 7th page. Okay, so here we're looking at another heart rate example. So if you completed the heart rate exercise, you showed different statements to the user based on whether or not the user heart rate was inside of a target zone. Now you decide to just tell them what zone they are in rather than tell them what zone to be in. Write a switch statement that will print different statements based on what range current HR falls into. Below is a list of ranges and the associated statements. So we're going to print all these statements based on the ranges 100 to 120, 121 to 140, and so on and so forth. So how do we do this? Pretty easy stuff. We start with the switch statement, and obviously we're going to use our constant current HR, open curly brace, and then we're going to print, we're going to create case 1, and it's actually not case 1, it's case 100 to 100 to, what is it, 120. 100 to 120. So case 100 to 120, we're going to print out the following. I'm just going to copy and paste this. So let's have a look here. Just copy, paste, and that's what we're going to print out. And that's case 1, or case 100 to 120 rather. So case 121 to 140 gives us, so case 121 to 140, we're going to print out this statement right here. Okay, can go ahead and paste it right here. And then case 141 to 160, we're going to print out the following statement. As you can tell, this is pretty easy stuff. I'm doing mostly copying and pasting here. And then the second last one is case 161 to 180. We're going to print out the following statement. And we're almost done here. So by the way, to copy, you just type, you click Command C if you have a Mac keyboard, and if you have a Windows keyboard, if you're using a Windows keyboard for some reason, it's the Windows key and C. So we're gonna go ahead and print the last statement for 181 to 200, and there we go. And obviously we end this with default. And with the default we print, what did it ask us to print? Okay, so if current heart rate is above listed zone, print some kind of warning to slow down. So we're gonna print, please slow down, you're working too hard. Cool. All right, and that's pretty much it. Let's move on to page 8. Okay, so this is page 8. Let's get started here. We're dealing with the ternary operator here. It says refactor the code below so that the largest, so the variable largest, is declared and assigned to 2 in one line using the ternary operator. So here what we've done is we've actually used an if statement to declare to assign number 1 or number 2 to largest based on the structure here. So essentially, we've got two we've got two constants here, and what the constants are doing, each one has a value. The first one has a value of 14, the other has a value of 25, and what we're saying is, listen, if number 1 is larger than number 2, then assign number 1 to largest. If uh, else, which meaning number 2 is larger than number 1, then assign number 2 to the largest. So how do we change all of this? How do we change all of this to actually all of this to one line? So how do we do all of this in one line using the ternary operator? Um, so it looks sort of funny, but first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and comment this out. But the first thing you want to know is that it's gonna assign obviously number 2, which is 25, which is what it should do um, later. But let's go ahead and comment all of that out. So now we've commented all of this out. So let's go ahead and do this. So let's have a look here. How would you do this? So first you want to use the let keyword to create this constant called largest, right? It doesn't need to be a variable. You use the assignment operator, number 1 greater than sign, number 2 the question mark, which is what we use here for the ternary operator composition, number 1 colon number 2. And essentially what this line does right here is all of this. So I'm telling it, and obviously it gave it the value of 25. I'm telling it if number 1 is larger than number 2, assign it to largest. Otherwise, assign number 2, which is the other one. Okay, moving on to the last page here. The code below should look similar to the code you wrote in the fitness decision. In the fitness decision exercise, the if-else statement is actually unnecessary, and instead you can print either one statement or the other all on one line using the ternary operator. Go ahead and refactor the code below to do just that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. First thing I want to do is comment all of this out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And to do that, all you have to do is, so I'm going to use the print statement here to do this. So steps, and I'll explain this in a sec, is less than step goal, divide that by 2, question mark, almost halfway, colon, over halfway, and obviously close the parentheses. So what we've done here is essentially this right here, and I did all of this, and I even printed it using one line. What we've done here is this right here actually replaces this if statement. So what we're saying is if steps is less than step goal divided by 2, so this portion right here is identical to this, and then go ahead and assign it almost halfway. Otherwise, assign it over halfway. And I put all of this in the print function in the parentheses, so I print out the answer. Okay, obviously if I comment this out, so it gave it almost halfway. If I comment this out and I uncomment this, you will see, and you'll see which one it'll print, and it should print almost halfway. So it's the same answer. Perfect. Thank you for watching.